The art of compassionate action today. Have you ever walked past someone in pain, emotionally, financially, spiritually, and felt a flicker in your heart, but didn't know what to do? We live in a world that praises speed, self-interest, and efficiency. And yet, in the quiet corners of our lives, there's a deep yearning for connection, for meaning, for something more human. Compassion, though ancient, is not outdated. It's the bridge between your heart and the heart of another. And today, more than ever, the art of compassionate action may be our most radical and healing path forward. But let's pause for a moment. What does compassionate action really mean? It's not just about feeling sympathy. It's not even just kindness in thought. Compassion becomes alive when it moves from the heart into the world, into what we say, what we choose, what we do. Imagine this. You're standing in line at the grocery store. The person in front of you is struggling. Maybe their card declines. Maybe they're short a few dollars. It's easy to look away. It's easy to judge. But what if compassion looked like quietly covering the difference? No grand gestures, just quiet humanity. Or let's bring it closer to home. Maybe someone you love is hurting, but instead of trying to fix them or offer advice, compassionate action is simply sitting beside them in silence, holding space for their storm without needing to control it. You see, compassionate action doesn't always require grand plans. It often whispers, not shouts. And yet, its impact is deep and lasting. In Buddhism, compassion, karu, is not weakness. It's power rooted in clarity. It's the fierce courage to stay present with suffering, not turn away. And the most beautiful part? Compassionate action doesn't deplete us. It nourishes both the giver and the receiver. But here's the challenge. In today's fast-paced, often disconnected world, how do we practice compassion without burning out? How do we stay soft without getting swallowed? It begins with remembering this simple truth. Compassion is not about rescuing others. It's about recognizing our shared humanity. When we stop seeing others as them and begin to see us, walls begin to fall. Strangers become neighbors. Opponents become human again. And sometimes, compassionate action begins with ourselves. We are so good at being hard on ourselves, criticizing our every mistake, punishing our imperfections. But imagine if you turned that same energy into gentleness. What would it feel like to extend to yourself the compassion you so freely give others? Here's a small practice you can try right now. Close your eyes. Place your hand on your heart. And simply say, "May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I act with compassion, even here." This isn't indulgence. This is the foundation of all outward compassion. Because a heart that has never been held in kindness cannot fully hold others. And yet, we often wonder, does compassion really make a difference? Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine, burned out and exhausted, once told me she had stopped believing in people. The world felt too cruel, too cold. One day, in the middle of a rainy afternoon, she dropped her groceries in the parking lot. Eggs cracked, milk spilled, tears welled up. Then, a stranger knelt beside her. Without a word, they helped her gather everything. No questions, no judgment, just presence. That simple moment, she said, cracked something open. Not because it fixed her life, but because it reminded her, goodness still exists. And that's the thing about compassionate action. It doesn't need to be huge. It just needs to be real. Now, I'm not saying you need to run out and save the world today. But maybe, just maybe, you could hold the door a little longer. Send a message to someone you haven't heard from. Tip a little more. Speak a little softer. Or most of all, listen. In a society that rushes to speak, to fix, to scroll, deep listening is one of the greatest acts of compassion. So let me ask you, who around you might need your presence more than your advice? Where can you plant a small seed of kindness today, without expecting anything in return? You see, the art of compassionate action is not a destination. It's a daily practice. And like all art, it requires presence, attention, and heart. It's saying yes to being uncomfortable when it means someone else can feel safe. It's choosing understanding over judgment, even when you don't agree. It's remembering that behind every mask, anger, indifference, sarcasm, there is often a wound. And perhaps the most radical act of all in today's world is this: to remain soft. To keep choosing love, even in the face of cruelty. To believe that small, consistent actions rooted in compassion can shift the world, one human heart at a time. So if you're wondering where to start with you. your daily choices, your words, your pauses, because the ripple effect of compassion begins the moment you decide to live it. The truth is, the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more people willing to be present, to care, to act, not from ego, but from love. This is the art of compassionate action. Simple, powerful, transformative, and completely within your reach, today. If this touched something in you, take a moment to share it. Not just the video, but the feeling, the reminder, the practice. And if you'd like more like this, subscribe. This space is here to keep the soft heart strong. The ancient secret that can heal today's world, compassionate action. Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed by the world's negativity? You're not alone. Every day, it seems like there's another headline that weighs heavy on the soul, another confrontation, another moment where kindness feels like a fading language. But what if I told you there's an ancient wisdom, centuries old, that not only transforms how we relate to each other, but also strengthens our ability to face modern chaos with clarity, strength, and love? Today, we are going to explore how compassionate action, when brought into your everyday life, can become your most powerful and healing tool. 1. The modern void and the ancient answer. Let's be honest. We live in a time where outrage is currency. Social media thrives on division. And people, more than ever, feel unseen and unheard. But in the middle of this noise, there's something sacred we've forgotten. The quiet power of compassion. Not just as a feeling, but as action. Compassionate action is when your empathy moves beyond thought and becomes something tangible. A gesture, a word, a presence that tells someone, I see you. I care. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Compassion isn't weakness. It's clarity. It's strength. It's the courage to remain soft in a world that rewards hardness. 2. What compassionate action looks like. Let me share something with you. A friend of mine, Michael, was having a really rough day. Nothing dramatic, just one of those days where everything feels off. Late to work, missed lunch, stressed out, and then, in line at a coffee shop, the person ahead of him paid for his drink. No words, just a smile. That tiny moment, it shifted his entire mood. He told me later, it wasn't the coffee. It was the reminder that good still exists. We often underestimate how far small kindnesses travel. So, here's a question. When was the last time someone showed you compassion in a small way? And more importantly, when was the last time you gave it? 3. The roots in wisdom traditions. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is called karu. But it's not pity. It's the willingness to be with suffering, to act without ego, and to honor the dignity in all beings. And the beauty of karu is this. It doesn't require perfection. It doesn't ask you to fix the world. It simply asks that, in this moment, you choose understanding over judgment, presence over avoidance. This kind of compassion isn't abstract. It shows up when you pause before reacting to someone's anger. It arises when you ask someone how they're really doing, and wait for the answer. It appears when you forgive, not because the other deserves it, but because you deserve peace. 4. Compassion in a cynical world. Now, I know what some people might think. In a world this cruel, won't compassion just get you hurt? It's a fair question, but here's my response. Compassion doesn't mean being naive. It means seeing clearly and choosing kindness anyway. It's easy to harden ourselves, to become cynical. But cynicism is a slow poison. It numbs the heart, not protects it. Think about this. The people who've inspired you the most, were they the toughest? Or were they the most human? The ones who showed up when it mattered. The ones who stayed kind even when they had every reason not to. Compassion isn't about being liked. It's about being real. 5. Making it practical. So, how do we bring this ancient wisdom into modern life? Here are a few simple practices. Pause before reacting. When you feel triggered, ask, is there pain behind this person's behavior? Offer one small act of kindness daily. Hold a door. Let someone merge in traffic. Text someone just to say you care. Listen deeply. Not to reply, but to understand. Sometimes, just listening is the most compassionate thing you can do. Be compassionate to yourself. This one is key. Because self-compassion is not selfish. It's where all outer compassion begins. 6. Why this matters now more than ever. Right now, the world is aching. Politically, environmentally, emotionally. But we don't heal through more noise. We heal through presence. Through people who are willing to live compassion, not just talk about it. And you, yes, you, have that power. In your home, in your workplace, in your friendships. You can be the one who breaks the chain of coldness. You can be the soft place someone lands. And maybe, just maybe, your small act of care today becomes the ripple that softens someone's storm tomorrow. If this message speaks to something in your heart, don't let it stay as just words. Act on it. Reach out to someone. Show up. Choose understanding. And if you'd like more videos that nourish your soul, remind you of what matters, and help you live from the inside out, go ahead and subscribe. This space is for people like you, quietly changing the world, one compassionate action at a time. Be kind. Be present. Be the reason someone still believes in goodness. How compassionate action can change your life and the world. Imagine a life where stress gives way to understanding, where moments of conflict don't spiral into regret but open the door to deeper connection. Sounds ideal, right? But this isn't just a dream. This is the promise of compassionate action, not as a lofty idea, but as a daily practice that can reshape how we live, how we love, and how we respond to life's challenges. In this video, we are not just talking about kindness as a concept. We are diving into how compassion can become your quiet superpower, especially in moments that test your patience, your peace, and your heart. 1. Why compassionate action matters now. We live in an age of tension. So many of us walk around carrying stress we don't even realize we are holding. Tight shoulders, short tempers, emotional exhaustion. But what if I told you that compassion isn't just for saints and sages? It's actually one of the most practical and powerful tools you can use in daily life. Think about the last disagreement you had. Maybe it was with a partner, a colleague, or even a stranger online. What if, in that moment, you paused and asked yourself, what's the pain behind their words? What would happen if I responded from understanding, not ego? It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. 2. What compassionate action really is. Let's be clear. Compassion isn't about being passive or letting people walk all over you. It's about staying rooted in your own humanity while recognizing someone else's. It's responding with clarity, not cruelty. It's choosing care, not because they deserve it, but because you do. When compassion turns into action, it doesn't just soften the world around you, it transforms you from the inside out. 3. Everyday moments that matter. Let me give you a few real-life moments where compassionate action can quietly work its magic. You're in traffic. Someone cuts you off. Instead of raging, you take a breath and say, maybe they're having a hard day. Your partner snaps at you after work. Instead of snapping back, you ask, rough day. A friend disappears when you need them most. Instead of holding on to resentment, you reach out with curiosity. Hey, I've missed you. Is everything okay? These aren't big, dramatic gestures, but they change the emotional weather of your life. And over time, they build bridges where before there were only walls. 4. Ancient roots, modern needs. The power of compassion isn't a new discovery. Buddhist teachings have long held that compassion, karu, is one of the central qualities of an awakened heart. But here's what's beautiful. You don't have to sit in a monastery to practice it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. Willing to pause. Willing to see. Willing to act, not from fear, but from care. In a world that's often numb and transactional, choosing compassion is quietly radical. 5. Compassion isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. I won't pretend compassion is always the easiest choice. Sometimes it's far easier to snap, to shut down, to defend. But let me ask you something. When has defending yourself with anger ever brought you real peace? Compassion doesn't mean you approve of bad behavior. It doesn't mean you erase your boundaries. It means you choose to respond from a place of intention, not reaction. And here's the secret most people miss. The more you practice compassionate action, the stronger and clearer you become. Because compassion doesn't just help others, it protects your peace, too. 6. How to start practicing it now. So, how do we bring compassionate action into our lives today? Start small. Begin with breath. When you feel triggered, pause and breathe. Give your nervous system space to settle. Ask better questions. Instead of why are they like this, try what might they be carrying. Extend the benefit of the doubt, not because everyone deserves it, but because you deserve a lighter heart. Practice self-compassion. You can't pour from an empty cup. The way you speak to yourself becomes the way you speak to the world. Try this simple phrase in moments of tension. I choose understanding over being right. It's powerful and liberating. 7. Becoming the change, right where you are. You don't need a title, a platform, or a perfect past to be a force of healing in the world. You just need the willingness to begin, to make eye contact, to soften your voice, to listen more than you speak, to act, not from ego, but from presence. The ripple effect is real. One compassionate action can shift the energy in a room, a day, a relationship, sometimes even a life. If this message spoke to you, let it live in your life, not just in your mind. Practice it, share it, become it. And if you'd like more reminders like this, more tools to live with presence, compassion, and inner peace, click subscribe and join us. This space is for people who believe that kindness isn't weakness, and that change begins in the quiet moments. Until next time, stay kind, stay open, and keep becoming the change you long to see. In a world that teaches you to harden, staying soft is a courageous act. Why compassion is the boldest choice in 2025, and how to live it. In a world that often feels divided, the most revolutionary act might just be the simplest: compassion. Strange, isn't it? That in the age of artificial intelligence, rapid innovation, and constant online debate, the most powerful force available to us might not be faster tech, sharper opinions, or louder arguments, but something deeply human. Soft, quiet, overlooked, compassionate action. But let's be honest, what does compassion really look like in 2025? Not the meme version, not the Hallmark card, but in real life, when you're exhausted, triggered, or heartbroken. That's what we are exploring today. Because the truth is, compassion isn't just about others. It can radically reshape you, your relationships, your mental health, your resilience. So, what if kindness isn't the weakness we once assumed, but a form of strength we desperately need? 1. The modern landscape of division. Let's take a step back. Look around for a moment. We are more connected than ever digitally, but loneliness has skyrocketed. We have access to endless information, but our conversations feel more polarized, more brittle, more us versus them. There's a creeping fatigue, a weariness in the soul. Maybe you felt it too, the sense that people are quicker to judge than understand. That empathy feels like a luxury when the world is on fire. And yet, in this very atmosphere, something small becomes profound. A moment of patience, a word spoken gently, a hand offered without agenda. In times of division, compassion becomes not just a virtue, but a quiet rebellion. 2. What compassionate action really means. Here's where it gets practical. Compassionate action isn't about rescuing people or fixing everything. It's not even about always being nice. It's about seeing clearly and responding with care. It might look like listening fully to someone you disagree with, without needing to win. Giving space to someone who's hurting, even when you don't have the right words. Setting boundaries with love instead of resentment. Checking in on a friend without waiting for them to ask. It's presence. It's choice. It's the willingness to soften even when the world says harden. 3. The paradox of strength through softness. Now here's the paradox. Most people believe compassion makes you soft. But the truth? It makes you stronger. It takes far more strength to stay kind when you're misunderstood. To stay open when someone lashes out. To forgive, not because they're right, but because you deserve peace. Compassion isn't weakness. It's a kind of emotional maturity that keeps you from being dragged down by chaos. Think about it. When you respond with compassion, you remain the author of your energy. You're not reacting. You're choosing. 4. A real-life story. Let me share a story that stayed with me. A man I know, let's call him David, works in customer service at a tech company. One day, a woman called in, absolutely furious, yelling, blaming. He could have matched her energy, escalated the situation, hung up, but instead, he paused and asked, softly, "Has it just been one of those days?" There was silence. Then tears. Turns out, she had just lost her job. Her frustration wasn't really about the tech issue. It was life boiling over. That one moment changed everything. Not because he solved her life, but because he saw her. And that changed her energy, her words, and maybe even her day. That's the power of compassionate action. Not to fix people, but to break cycles. 5. Starting small, living it daily. So how do we bring this into our own lives? You don't need grand gestures. You need attention, willingness, a few small shifts. When you're frustrated, pause and ask, what's this person carrying? When you're hurting, ask, how can I be gentle with myself right now? When you witness suffering, big or small, ask, what would compassion do here? Start there. Compassion is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. 6. Compassion in a divided world. Let's be real. The world isn't getting quieter or simpler, but we don't need to match its chaos. We don't have to mirror its fear. When we choose compassion, we create a different frequency. One that invites people in. One that heals instead of harms. One that says, you matter, even if we disagree. And in a world that often screams, maybe your quiet kindness is exactly what's needed. So I leave you with this question. Who will you be when the world tests you? The echo of its noise? Or the calm in the center of the storm? Let your compassion speak. In your tone, your choices, your presence. And if this video reminded you of something you've always known deep down, that kindness is strength, and softness is sacred, then let's keep this conversation going. Subscribe, share, or simply take one moment today to live this wisdom, and become someone's quiet reminder that humanity still exists. In a time of division, compassion is not naive. It's revolutionary. Unveiling compassion's modern imperative. In a world that seems more connected than ever, with texts, DMS, group chats, and constant notifications, why does genuine human connection feel so rare? Why does it often seem easier to scroll past a stranger's pain than to stop and feel it? Why does kindness, real, present, courageous kindness, feel like a lost art? Today, let's talk about something deceptively simple, but deeply radical: compassion. Not the kind that's polite or performative. Not just being nice. But the kind of compassion that sees, really sees, the person in front of you. That recognizes the human being behind the mask, the algorithm, the label. Because maybe, just maybe, in a time where we are drowning in content and starving for meaning, the most revolutionary act is to care. Let's be honest. It's easy to say we care, to hit like, to type sending love. But true compassion, it asks more of us. It's not passive. It's active. It's not about appearing good. It's about doing good, even when it's inconvenient. And often, even when no one is watching. Here's the paradox. Compassion doesn't make you weaker. It makes you resilient. When you show up for others, authentically, wholeheartedly, you're also showing up for yourself. You're reminding your nervous system, your heart, your soul, that connection matters. That empathy is strength. That even when the world feels divided, you are not alone. Let me share something with you. A few years ago, I found myself emotionally numb. I was going through the motions, checking off the to-do lists, functioning, but inside, I felt like I was shrinking. Until one afternoon, at a train station, I saw a man crying on a bench. Something in me hesitated. Should I just walk past, like everyone else? But then I remembered a question I once heard. What if the smallest act of kindness was the exact medicine someone needed today? So I sat next to him. I didn't say much, just offered a bottle of water and asked, "You okay?" He looked at me, eyes wide, and said, "You're the first person to notice me in days." That moment broke me open. Not because I did something heroic, but because I realized compassion isn't always about grand gestures. It's about presence, attention, willingness. Here's the truth. We are biologically wired for compassion. Our nervous systems light up when we witness acts of kindness. Studies show that people who practice daily compassion, even small acts like complimenting a coworker or checking in with a friend, experience lower levels of stress and anxiety, higher resilience in the face of adversity, stronger immune systems, and a deeper sense of purpose. But we live in a culture that often mistakes compassion for weakness. We've been conditioned to compete, to protect our image, to not care too much. But in doing so, we lose a piece of ourselves. Because when we stop caring, or pretend not to, we also stop feeling. So here's my invitation to you, not just as a viewer, but as a human being. Be the one who notices. Be the one who checks in. Be the one who listens without fixing, who sees without judging, who loves without conditions. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take status. But it does take courage. To choose softness in a hardened world. To choose connection in a fragmented culture. To choose kindness, even when no one's keeping score. Ask yourself, when was the last time you really asked someone how they were doing, and waited for the honest answer? When was the last time you forgave quickly, even when it hurt? When was the last time you offered kindness, not because it was deserved, but because it was needed? This is the quiet revolution we all can lead. Not with banners, but with presence. Not through slogans, but through care. Compassion is not an accessory to a spiritual life. It is the spiritual life. It's not a feel-good bonus. It's the very soil where love grows. In a time when shouting is louder than listening. When being right matters more than being kind. Compassion becomes a radical act. So let's make it a practice. Let's make it a daily rhythm, like brushing our teeth or making coffee. Let's water the world with small acts of tenderness, until the walls soften and the wounds begin to heal. Because the world doesn't just need more opinions. It needs more hearts. And maybe yours is exactly what someone's been waiting for. Everyday acts of radical kindness. Let's pause for a moment. When was the last time you truly felt seen? Not just heard, but deeply understood. In today's fast-moving world, where texts replace conversations and scrolling replaces eye contact, we've slowly grown out of practice with a simple but profound act, being fully present for another human being. And yet, this very act, this seemingly small choice to listen with your heart wide open, is one of the most radical forms of kindness we can offer. Active listening isn't just about nodding politely or waiting for your turn to speak. It's the art of making space for another's truth, without judgment, without planning your reply, without rushing in to fix anything. It's the superpower of presence. In a time when everyone seems to be shouting to be heard, there is something quietly powerful about the one who listens. Imagine this. A friend opens up about something heavy. Instead of giving advice or switching the topic, you simply sit with them, breathe with them, and say, I hear you. I'm with you. No solutions. No platitudes. Just presence. That kind of listening, it can be life-changing. But kindness doesn't always wear such deep robes. Sometimes, it shows up in the lightest touches of everyday life. Paying for the coffee of the person behind you in line. Holding the elevator door a few extra seconds. Looking up from your phone to offer a real smile to the cashier. These aren't grand gestures, but they ripple more than you know. Have you ever had someone do something unexpectedly kind for you? Something small, yet it stayed with you all day. That's the ripple effect. One generous act inspires another, and then another. It's like planting invisible seeds in the hearts of strangers. You may never see them bloom, but bloom they will. Now let's talk about kindness in a place most people forget it even belongs, the internet. In the digital world, we are often reduced to avatars, usernames, and opinions hurled into the void. It's easy to forget that there's a real, breathing, feeling person behind every screen. But here's a radical idea. What if we approach the digital space with the same tenderness we try to bring into real-life conversations? Before posting that sarcastic comment, ask yourself, is this helpful? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And if it isn't, can we let it go? What if we turn social media into a practice of compassion? Instead of arguing with someone we disagree with, we might try understanding where they're coming from. Instead of shaming, we uplift. Instead of proving a point, we listen. Radical kindness isn't soft. It's not weakness. It's strength disguised in humility. It's the courage to respond to cruelty with clarity and care. It's the choice to extend humanity, even when no one's watching, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you something. And here's the secret. The one who gives kindness never walks away empty-handed. Studies show that acts of generosity actually light up the same reward centers in the brain as chocolate or music. Being kind isn't just good for others. It's profoundly healing for you. It lowers stress, strengthens your immune system, boosts your mood, and even helps you live longer. In other words, kindness rewires the giver just as much as it touches the receiver. So the next time you're tempted to rush past someone, to ignore a small need, or to lash out online, pause. Choose presence. Choose softness. Choose the small, radical act that reminds the world, and yourself, that compassion still exists. Because in a world that often feels too loud, too divided, and too distracted, radical kindness isn't just an option. It's a quiet revolution. Cultivating inner compassion first. Let me ask you something simple, but powerful. When was the last time you were truly kind to yourself? Not just treating yourself to a coffee after a long day, or taking a break when you're tired, but really, deeply offering yourself compassion. The kind of understanding you'd give a friend who was hurting. Have you ever paused and given that to yourself? We live in a world that praises hustle, perfection, self-improvement. And while growth is beautiful, there's a shadow side we don't talk about enough: self-judgment. The inner voice that says, you should have done better. You're falling behind. You're not enough. That voice is loud, isn't it? But here's the truth. Compassion can't truly flow outward if it's missing within. You can't pour kindness into others from an empty well. Cultivating inner compassion isn't selfish. It's the foundation of every meaningful connection we make in this world. So today, let's talk about what it means to treat yourself with the same grace, patience, and tenderness that you so naturally offer to others. The often overlooked step: self-kindness as a radical act. In Buddhist philosophy, compassion is like a lamp. Its light shines outward, but it must first be lit from within. Yet for many of us, the idea of directing warmth toward ourselves feels foreign, or even wrong. Think about it. If a close friend came to you and said, "I messed up, I feel worthless," you'd never say, "Yeah, you're right. You're terrible." But how many times have you said something like that to yourself? That's the overlooked step of healing. Learning to stand beside yourself, not against yourself. It's radical, not because it's complicated, but because we are so conditioned to do the opposite. So what if we made a habit of speaking to ourselves the way we would a dear friend? Not with fake praise or avoidance, but with real empathy. Yes, you made a mistake, but you're still worthy of love. That shift alone can change your entire relationship with life. Mindfulness as a tool to recognize and ease self-criticism. One of the most effective ways to develop self-compassion is through mindfulness, noticing your thoughts without judgment. Let's say you're stuck in traffic, running late, and that familiar voice chimes in. "You're always so disorganized. Why can't you get it together?" That's a moment most of us let pass without pause. But mindfulness gives you the power to catch that moment, to take a breath, and to gently ask, "Is this thought helping me or hurting me?" It doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging your stress without letting it define your worth. Even something as simple as placing a hand over your heart and saying quietly, "This is hard, and I'm doing my best," can shift your nervous system out of fight or flight into calm. Self-compassion isn't about pretending you have no flaws. It's about embracing your humanness fully. Forgiveness as liberation, letting go of the past. And then there's forgiveness, the ultimate act of inner compassion. Most of us carry invisible bags filled with past regrets, shame, or guilt. Sometimes it's about something we did. Other times, it's about not doing what we think we should have done. Either way, the weight is real. But what if you didn't have to carry it anymore? Forgiveness isn't about excusing behavior. It's about releasing the grip the past has on your present. It's a way of saying, "I refuse to keep punishing myself for something I can no longer change." I remember a time in my own life when I kept replaying one mistake over and over, like a broken tape. It haunted me. Until one day, I sat in stillness and asked, what would it look like to forgive myself? Not to forget, not to deny, but to accept. And from that moment, something softened inside me. That's what compassion does. It doesn't erase the wound, but it allows it to breathe, to heal. Slowly, honestly, gently. A final reflection. What would change if you were kinder to yourself? So, here's the invitation. Today, try offering yourself the same love you'd give a hurting child or a cherished friend. Let that be your practice, not just when life feels calm, but especially when it feels messy. Maybe that means resting when you feel exhausted, instead of pushing through. Maybe it means journaling your thoughts with tenderness, rather than criticism. Or maybe it's simply saying to yourself, "I'm still learning." And that's okay. You deserve that kind of compassion, not because you've earned it, but because you're human. And being human is enough. Let that be your radical act today. The way you speak to yourself becomes the way you move through the world. Speak gently. Walk kindly. Begin within. Compassion in challenging interactions. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling drained, frustrated, or misunderstood? We all have. Human relationships are complex, and when tensions rise, it's easy to get swept into a current of reactivity. But what if there was another way to show up in conflict? A way that didn't require us to fight or flee, but to soften without collapsing. Let's talk about compassion in the moments that test us the most. We often think of compassion as something soft, something reserved for those who are hurting or lost. But the truth is, compassion is one of the strongest forces we can bring into moments of tension, especially when we are face to face with misunderstanding, criticism, or even anger. When someone speaks to us with aggression or condescension, our nervous system naturally prepares to defend. We tighten. Our tone sharpens. And before we know it, we are not communicating anymore. We are defending our ego. We are reacting from pain, not wisdom. But there's a quiet superpower that mindfulness offers us: the ability to pause, to breathe, to recognize that just because someone is raising their voice doesn't mean we have to raise ours. Ask yourself, what is this person really trying to express beneath their tone? Is it fear? Insecurity? A deep-seated wound they haven't been able to voice in any other way? Understanding doesn't mean agreeing. It doesn't mean allowing disrespect or abuse. But it does mean being curious about what's underneath the surface. This shift, from reaction to reflection, can be the difference between escalation and de-escalation, between damage and healing. And this brings us to something that's often misunderstood. Setting boundaries is not the opposite of compassion. In fact, setting healthy, clear boundaries is one of the deepest expressions of compassion, both for ourselves and for the other person. You can say no with love. You can walk away without slamming the door. You can choose not to engage in an argument and still be present in the relationship. Think about that for a moment. When was the last time you said no without guilt? When was the last time you protected your energy not out of anger, but out of clarity? Boundaries are not walls. They're bridges built with care. They say, I value myself, and I value you enough to be honest about what I can and cannot hold right now. Compassion also asks us to respond, rather than react. A reaction is automatic, driven by our wounds, our fears, our old stories. But a response, that comes from presence, from breath, from choice. The next time you feel the heat rising in a conversation, try this simple practice. Pause, breathe, soften the body, and silently ask yourself, what would love say here, without losing truth? You might not have the perfect answer. You might still feel frustrated or shaken. But in that pause, you create a tiny space where empathy can enter. And in that space, transformation is possible. I'll leave you with this reflection. The real test of our compassion isn't how we treat people who are kind to us. It's how we hold space for those who aren't. Not to tolerate harm, but to show up rooted, clear, and awake. Because every challenging interaction is also a mirror. A chance to see not just what others carry, but what we carry, too. So, the next time conflict knocks on your door, will you open with armor or with awareness? Your compassionate action blueprint. A 7-day journey that could change everything. Have you ever wondered what would happen if, for just 7 days, you made compassion your #1 priority? Not just a feeling, but a conscious decision. A small act here. A thoughtful response there. A deliberate pause before reacting. What might shift, within you and around you, if you committed to kindness, fully and unapologetically? Today, I invite you to take on a challenge. Not to push harder, achieve more, or become better, but to come home to who you truly are, compassionate, connected, and deeply human. This is your compassionate action blueprint. A 7-day journey. Each day with a simple, doable prompt to help you embody compassion, not just as a nice idea, but as a living, breathing practice. Day 1. Begin with self-compassion. Before we offer compassion to the world, we must learn to offer it inward. So today, just notice how you speak to yourself. Would you talk to a friend the way you talk to you? Try this. Every time you catch your inner critic, pause and replace the thought with a gentler one. Not perfect. That's okay. Try again. That's the practice. Day 2. Practice deep listening. How often do we listen just to reply? Today, your task is simple but powerful. Listen. Fully. Without interrupting. Without fixing. Just be there. Whether it's a coworker venting, a child rambling, or a stranger sharing their story, let them feel heard. Because sometimes, the most compassionate thing we can do is say nothing, and simply listen with our whole heart. Day 3. Offer a silent blessing. You'll walk past dozens of people today, each carrying invisible burdens, hidden griefs, quiet dreams. Choose a few. As you pass them, on the street, in traffic, in the store, whisper silently in your mind, "May you be well. May you find peace." They'll never know, but you will, and something in you will soften. Day 4. Set a kind boundary. Compassion doesn't mean being a doormat. It means knowing your limits and communicating them with care. Today, say no where you need to, but say it with love, with clarity, without guilt, because protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's sacred. Day 5. Reach out to someone lonely. We all know someone who feels invisible. A neighbor, a distant relative, that old friend you lost touch with. Today, send a message. Make a call. Write a note. Let them know, "I see you. You matter. I'm here." Sometimes, your words might be the only light in someone's dark hallway. Day 6. Forgive someone, even just a little. You don't have to forget. You don't have to excuse the pain. But can you, just for today, loosen your grip on the anger? Compassion for others often begins with forgiveness, for their imperfection, and for ours. Maybe it's a parent, a partner, or yourself. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means choosing peace over poison. Day 7. Do something kind without being caught. Today's challenge is beautifully simple. Do something kind, and don't take credit for it. Leave a note for a stranger. Pay for someone's coffee. Pick up trash no one else sees. Say a silent prayer for someone in pain. Let it be your secret act of beauty. No applause. No recognition. Just love in motion. Now pause. Take a breath. This isn't about being the nicest person or earning spiritual points. This is about remembering who you really are, beneath the noise of fear, judgment, and distraction. And you don't have to do it alone. That's why the second part of this blueprint is community. Because compassion thrives when shared. Find people who also want to live more kindly. Maybe it's a friend you can text about your daily challenge. Maybe it's an online group, a meditation circle, or even the comment section of this video. When we share our efforts, our struggles, and our growth, it all becomes more real, more possible. And slowly, day by day, we start to reshape our inner world. And the outer one, too. So why does this matter? Why now? Because the world is aching. People are angry, scared, disconnected. And it's easy to believe that small acts don't make a difference. But they do. They ripple. Every kind word you speak becomes part of someone else's healing. Every boundary you set with kindness teaches others they can do the same. Every moment you choose empathy instead of judgment, connection instead of isolation. You're building a different world. Not overnight, but over time. Through presence, through practice, through heart. So, here's your invitation. 7 days. 7 small actions. 1 big shift. Start today. Pick just one prompt. And if you feel called, leave a comment below. Which day spoke to you most deeply? What did you notice? Let's begin a conversation of kindness, together. Because compassion isn't just something we feel. It's something we do. And when we do it together, it changes everything. Would you like a printable version of this 7-day challenge? Or a guided version to follow each day with me? Let me know in the comments, and we'll walk this path side by side. See you in the next video. And until then, be gentle, be brave, and stay human.